Hi there. Coming to you this morning to talk about a new piece that I just wrote. It's titled On the Wrong Track, A Layperson's Explanation of Brain Reward System Malfunction in Anorexia Nervosa. And this is an explanation that I give to families in person, on the phone. I've been using it for a while and it seems to be really effective, so I wanted to share it with more people. The very first part of this actually sort of comes from when I asked my 22-year-old son a few years ago how he explained his little sister's anorexia to people. He said, "Isn't it just when your brain processes food as a threat to your survival rather than necessary for it?" And I said, "Dude, it is that. Thank you. That was just such a phenomenal, succinct explanation I've not heard." So that's where the rest of this explanation sort of comes from. And the way I explain this is I look at the signal that's going between the stomach and the brain related to eating. I look at that as sort of a train track that should run in, just one way. So back and forth, back and forth. And the way it works, again, layperson's explanation based on expert conversations and reading, is that when the stomach needs some food, it sends a signal to the brain to get that process started. Brain gets us, picking up the fork. And as the food comes in, the stomach sends up a signal to the brain, to the pleasure center, which is located in the limbic portion of the brain, in the amygdala. And the pleasure center lights up, and it's this two-way thing. Ooh, that was good, have some more, sort of keeps going like that for a while. And then at a certain point, when the stomach has had enough, it sends a signal to the satiety center of the brain, and then the brain shuts down eating. So that's how it should work when everything's working well. In someone who has a genetic vulnerability to anorexia, often indicated by temperament, and I've outlined that in the handout that goes with this, temperament being oftentimes very driven, high achieving, inwardly motivated, perfectionist, a host of characteristics, many of them very, very positive. Not everyone has all of them, but most people have some of them. So those temperamental characteristics indicate the genetic vulnerability. And then when that person experiences a negative energy balance, which could be intentional or unintentional, and is any time that energy intake is lower than energy output, that makes them vulnerable to sort of a cascade of things that happen that are unique to a person genetically vulnerable to anorexia. And when that happens, it's like a switching station has been put in right before that signal gets to the pleasure center. So now that signal is sort of chugging up the train track after there's been some eating happening. And just before it gets to the pleasure center of the brain, there's a switching station put in. And that switching station takes it over to the anxiety center of the brain. And so what that means is, in a very real, powerful, neurobiological way, when a person with anorexia takes a bite of food, it causes them tremendous anxiety. And not eating relieves that anxiety. So, sort of the behaviors of anorexia start to make a lot of sense when you look at them in that light. And it also makes a lot of sense that if that's what's happening, if a plate of food to you is literally a plate of snakes and spiders, it's going to be pretty hard for you to choose to eat those snakes and spiders and begin to rewire your brain to return it to normal functioning. So what we in the family community have found is that the best rewiring happens with high fat, high calories, higher weight to a brain restoration weight versus just a physically healthy weight, and more time of supervision and making sure everything's okay so that the brain doesn't sort of slip back into that old wiring pattern. And we talked about the new research sort of supporting that, and I also want to put in here, at this point in time, there's no such thing as a belief that 100% of people with anorexia will get well, and there's not even there's no belief because there's no research is part of it, or the research that we have is sort of so incomplete. We're starting to do something we've never done before, which is full nutritional rehabilitation to a moving target weight range that supports full brain restoration. And I think and I hope that's going to change things. And it's probably still true that this isn't the full answer for everyone. I will say I think we can be pretty confident in saying that without this, it's not having this is not the answer for anyone. So taking into account, understanding what that wiring is, the best ways that we know of and have so far to begin to rewire the brain, My emphasis will continue to be on promoting families to ask for full nutritional rehabilitation using a moving target range based on personal rather than generic metrics, and to get our loved ones to a place of full brain restoration. I hope this explanation has been helpful, and would love it if you would share it with other families and providers that you think could benefit from it. Thanks a lot.